Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us to learn more about Cyber Civics Level 1, which is all about digital citizenship. I'm Diana Graber, and I'm the founder of Cyber Civics, which is a middle school digital citizenship and literacy program. I'm also the co-founder of CyberWise, which is a resource site full of great information for parents and teachers who want to help raise digital kids, smart digital kids. And I'm also the author of a forthcoming book called Raising Humans in a Digital World, which you can find now on Amazon. All right, so what is digital citizenship? The short answer is it's the safe and responsible and respectful use of digital tools. I have a picture here about online safety because really what it isn't are lessons on online safety. That's super limiting, and digital citizenship really encompasses a lot more than that, which I hope you'll understand as we go through this webinar. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the program. It actually was founded at Journey School back in 2011. Journey is a public charter Waldorf school in Southern California. And way back then, we had our first ever cyber incident. And in response to that, we decided to get ahead of those issues by starting to give the children lessons in citizenship and literacy so that they could be safe and responsible citizens and not have these issues. And as a result of that, the program has grown into a 3-year program that's now being used all over the country. We put it online and made it available on a super easy to use platform called SkillJar so that any teacher can download the lessons from a laptop, even a smartphone, and deliver them in their own classroom. We're really proud to say that today Cyber Civics is taught in schools in 41 US states plus internationally, and that spans all kinds of schools, public, charter, Waldorf, Montessori, Catholic, public. So it's pretty nice to see that it really crosses over into all kinds of educational settings. We even have some after-school groups, the Girl Scouts use it, and it's pretty exciting to see. So, all right, so a little bit about the curriculum. It's really geared to meet children where they are developmentally. And what we did here is we sequenced what we found were the best digital literacy lessons and combined them with some new materials in a way that makes sense. They scaffold skills so that you take kids from the beginning to the end and piece things together so that they really get it. The entire curriculum, especially this level 1, can be taught without computers. And the reason for that is any digital literacy expert you ask will tell you that the most important digital skills are social and behavioral skills. Those can be taught offline. As they say, it's about neurology, not technology. I also like to say that anyone that's smarter than a 5th grader can teach these lessons. Our lessons are proactive. They empower young people with the skills to use technology safely and wisely, and definitely not fear-based. We want to teach young people how to harness the power of digital technologies in really powerful ways. I want to say this real quickly. A lot of schools, because of time and just resources, they'll invite someone in to give a one-time talk on online safety or digital citizenship, and that's it, one and done. And that absolutely, in our minds, doesn't work. This is a very big, complex topic that needs to be addressed again and again. Kids are dealing with social media issues, every single day, day in, day out, summer, school year. And we need to, address that in the classroom, outside of the classroom, and help them kind of noodle through the very difficult choices they're faced with online. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. Let's see here. Okay, so this is a question we get asked a lot. Why do you wait till 6th grade to teach these lessons? And there's a couple of very good reasons for that. Number one, when children hit that 11 to 14-year range, it's really when their interest in digital media peaks. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Kids at this age are biologically programmed to start detaching from their family of origin and making connections with their peer groups to figure out who they are. And today, many of them have technology that allow them to do that 24/7. So it's really when their interest peaks. But number two is the more important reason. It takes kids about till 12 or 13 years of age to have the ability to do ethical thinking. And the reason for that is that you have to be able to do abstract thinking before you can do ethical thinking, and that the mechanics to do that in the brain don't develop until about 12 or 13. So even though we're putting devices in the hands of kids at much younger ages, their brains just are not ready to do the ethical thinking that the online world requires and that we do in these lessons. So, you can tell a child at age 8, don't do this, don't do that. But at age 12 and 13, they're starting to figure that out for themselves, and that's really what we want them to do. All right, so a quick look at the overall year of Level 1. It's based on 6 different units that we'll go through here in just a minute. Every unit is comprised of about 3 to 6 lessons. Some of these lessons will take you 1 class period. Some lessons will take 2 to 3 class periods. It really depends on the size of the group of kids that you're working with and or their interest level. So you'll see that as we go through. So the very first lesson that we start with is called Becoming a Detective. And this is a super fun lesson that I found in a great book that I recommend by Jason Oler called Digital Community, Digital Citizen. Oler is a professor at Fielding Graduate University, which is where I got my master's in media psychology and social change. It's a great book, and the lesson that I'm going to tell you about in a moment is really based on the fact that all of technology connects and disconnects us from one another. And that's not just the smartphone, that's technology throughout the ages. For example, I tell the kids a story in ancient Greece. There was this new piece of technology developed called the stylus. And for the first time ever, people could write down their thoughts and ideas and stories so that other people could read them. And you would think that would be a really great piece of technology, right? Well, unfortunately, there was a fellow by the name of Socrates, perhaps you know him, that he thought that the writing instrument was a terrible invention because it would cause man to lose the ability to remember things. And so he kind of railed against it. Well, as time went on, I think everyone realized that writing was kind of good for everybody, and it was a kind of a wonderful invention. So, when we tell kids that story, they immediately draw the connection between that and today's technology and often say, my parents think the smartphone's causing me to lose my ability to connect with people. So that's really where we want the kids' thinking to go. So what we do is we break them into groups of 3 to 4 detectives, and every group has a piece of technology that they investigate. In this case, they have the automobile, and their job is to think of 3 ways that the automobile connected humans to one another and 3 ways it disconnected humans from one another. So they have a lot of fun with this. This is the work that I got from one group of kids. Their piece of technology to investigate was the telephone. And in this case, it was cute. They said some disconnects were, so with the phone, you're not talking with people around you. You stop having people over because you just can call them. You stop going into nature and seeing what really matters. But the connects that they saw was you used to have to wait months just to communicate with others. You can call someone who lives really far away. In case of an emergency, you can call someone. So we really want kids to think of the pluses and minuses. Sometimes what I do is I ask my groups of detectives, if you invented the telephone, how would you have made it better? And in this case, they think that there should be phones with a hologram so you can see the person you're talking to. So I thought that was pretty cute. So anyway, this really puts technology in a social and historical perspective and gets them thinking towards our future lessons. The homework that goes along with this lesson is the kids are required to go home and continue their detective work by interviewing a parent or grandparent and asking them what life was like before the cell phone. And they have a ton of fun with this, and that's one of the reasons this lesson spans more than 1 class period, because they each like to come back and give the results of their detective work. And they come back with things like, gosh, my parents used to play outside after school. And sometimes they even bring in old brick phones that some parent had tucked in the drawer, and they think that's very exciting. So this is a really great way to kick off your exploration of technology. The lesson that follows this actually takes a look at today's technology. This is a desktop computer, which we're seeing lesser and lesser, fewer and fewer of, but it gives the kids a chance to look inside and see what the components are that make the computer work. We kick off this lesson by asking them to draw us what they think is inside of a computer and how it works. And this is actually a pretty good drawing. I get a lot of drawings with hamsters and wheels turning them, or fairies making things happen. So it's a good chance to teach kids about the different components that are inside the computer. And for this lesson, every group gets a component that they have to investigate and present to the rest of the class. All the lessons in Cyber Civics are delivered on a PDF like this, so the teacher can either read them within the portal or download them and hold them as they deliver the lesson. This is our next lesson. It's kind of a game show where we ask the kids all kinds of questions about the history of the internet. For example, what year was the internet born? What was the first message ever transmitted over the internet? If you don't know, the answer to number 2 is actually the word log. And kind of interesting, the computer was, I guess it died on the word G because it was just too much data being transmitted over the internet. So with each question, we give the teacher a tidbit of information that they can share with your students about the history of the internet. All right, so the next unit moves into citizenship. And this is a super important topic because when you think about it today, we're all citizens not only of our local communities and states and that kind of thing, but we're also citizens of these vast organizations and groups online. Sometimes we're citizens in groups with people we don't even see or know who they are. And so it's important for students to understand what it means to be a citizen in an online world, because these are communities that they're going to be joining and be members of, from here on in. So we take a close look at that. One of the ways we start is we teach them what the principles of good citizenship are: honesty, compassion, respect, responsibility, and courage. We want them to think about how you act in those ways in communities you already belong to. So again, the kids work in groups and they're each given a community that they belong to. In this case, these are some of my kids on the left-hand side. They belong to the community of the state of California. So they had to think of ways that they showed honesty, compassion, responsibility, respect, and courage. For example, you show respect by stopping at stop signs. And then I happened to be visiting a school in Oregon that was doing the exact same lesson that day. And I thought it was cute. It shows you how regional this is, because in Oregon, they show honesty by having non-GMO foods. So I thought that was pretty regional and funny. This is a group of kids, and they had to think about how they show these traits in a soccer team, which is also a community. And so that was really cute. They talked about being respectful to their teammates, how they show compassion during a game, and responsibility. So you can do this with all kinds of communities, but it really gets kids thinking in terms of, gosh, this is how I act in my offline world. How do you translate that into an online world? I think we have a little video here for you. This is one of the videos that we play during Cyber Civics for the kids.
We're all citizens of our communities, our states, countries, even the world. Today we are even citizens of a bigger community. It's online, and its members include anyone who uses a connected device, like a computer, smartphone, iPad, or tablet. Hey, that makes almost everyone a digital citizen. Digital citizenship offers great opportunities. Just think of all the cool stuff you can do online. But it also requires big responsibilities. To be kind, fair, respectful, and truthful, for example. But who's online to make sure that we use the internet properly? Well, that's the thing. Sometimes there are no internet police or traffic signals to tell people how to act online. So it's up to us to act responsibly. After all, no one wants to hang out in a place that's not safe or fun to be in, right? So think about that next time you go online. Because how you act today will largely determine what digital citizenship will be tomorrow.
So that gives you an idea of some of the videos that we show for students. We actually have a ton of videos on our YouTube channel, which is called CyberWise, not just for students, but also for adults and parents and teachers. So I think there's something like 100 videos there now, so please help yourself to those if you're interested. All right, so the next unit is probably one of the most important. It's called Your Digital Reputation, and I'll tell you a little story of why it's so important. You may have heard about this, but last year, 10 students that were accepted to Harvard were asked not to come, and the reason for that is because of things that they posted online, and I'll quickly tell you the story. Every year when Harvard accepts new students, it opens up a Get to Know You Facebook page. And in this case, some students broke off from that Facebook page and opened what they thought was a private Facebook group. I'm using my air quotes here because as I tell the kids in Cyber Civics, nothing online is ever private. But somebody, I guess, forgot to tell these students that, because in this so-called private group, they were sharing very offensive memes, really inappropriate information. So some other students alerted the acceptance officers at Harvard about this Facebook group, and they took a look at it, and they decided that these 10 kids were not representative of the types of students they wanted to have at Harvard. So they were their offers of acceptance were rescinded. So I think that's a really heartbreaking story, because obviously these were smart kids that made a really stupid decision that will affect them for the rest of their lives. And so I think this is really a great illustration why it's so important to talk to kids about their online reputations while they're young. So I'm going to quickly take you through some of the lessons we do. Oh, first we've got a little video. This is the video that we show in this unit.
We all have to admit, the internet is pretty cool. It provides a lot of opportunities to learn new things and connect with interesting people. But when you use the internet, it's important to remember that every time you text, tweet, post, comment, play a game, blog, or even fill out a form, the internet has a way of remembering you and what you do. All of your online activities add up to make your digital billboard. A collection of all the stuff you've ever done online. It tells the world all about you. And it's up to you to decide what to put on it. Everything you post can potentially be shared, which is awesome. But remember, it can be seen by anyone and everyone. And Google always knows where to find you. So you're gonna want this billboard to make a good impression, because many people will judge you by what they see online. So think twice about the friends you make, about the things you post, and the selfies you upload. Because you want your digital billboard to be just as awesome as you are.
All right, so one of the first lessons we do here is actually put kids into the role of college admittance officers. So, the Harvard story is a great one to start with, so that we tell them, hey, in this case, your job is to evaluate 2 potential kids that want to come to your college, and you have one full scholarship to offer one of these 2 candidates. And we tell them that we whittled it down to the best candidates. The first one is this fellow by the name of David Downing. So the kids will actually read the letter that he's written to their university, telling them how awesome he is. And then we have gathered some digital billboard information or some of his online activities so that they can do a background check on him. So in this case, we have a picture from David's Instagram account that shows he TP'd a house. I'm going to do this real quickly. There's an article that appeared in his local newspaper that said he allegedly hacked into the school computer. And then he said that he was a member of the science club in his letter, but when you go on the science club Facebook page, it claims that he's been dropped from their club because of non-attendance to their meetings. So there's a lot more. This is just a couple of the different things that we found in his digital background. The other candidate is a girl, and she sounds awesome in her letter. She's got a high GPA. She wants to be an English major. She's great on the soccer team, blah, blah, blah. So then we take a look at her digital background, and the kids learn that, here's her food blog that she talks about, which is full of misspellings and grammatical errors, not so good for an English major. We discover that a recipe that she's very proud of was actually stolen from someone else's food blog. And again, she claims that she's on the honor roll, yet when you go to the school website, her name does not appear on the honor roll. So there's a lot more of background that comes with this, but I showed you very quickly some of the things that the kids look at. Their job next is to do an evaluation on each candidate to decide who's a better fit for their college, who they believe, whose digital reputation speaks volumes about their character. And in the end, the kids have to decide which of the 2 candidates they would give the full scholarship to. And in almost every case, when I do this with the students, they judge their peers pretty harshly. So in almost every case, the students say, hey, I don't want to give the scholarship to either of them. Do we have anybody else to look at? And so, it puts them on the other side of the equation. And I think this is really important, because if I were to stand in front of a bunch of kids and say, don't post this online because someday this may happen, that's going to go in one ear and out the other ear. But when they do a game or activity like this and they're judging others based on their digital reputation, it's, number one, it's fun, so they're super engaged. But number 2, it sticks a little better because they can actually see the consequences of posting something badly online. The other part of this lesson too, and I did that real quickly, so you probably didn't notice it, but there's some inconsistencies in there. For example, if you were to read carefully the article that claims that the boy hacked into the school computer, you would see that there's a little bit difference in the name, and you would also see that the kid in the article is a member of the lacrosse team, not the soccer team. And so kids start catching those inconsistencies, and the purpose is to show them that you really can't believe everything that's online. And number two, there's sometimes mistakes online that haven't been corrected, or sometimes things are old or they're not posted currently. So the kids always say, gosh, what do I do about that? And it really underscores the importance of choosing your online friends wisely. And also, there may seep in things about them online that aren't so great, and we want kids to understand that they can counterbalance that by posting really positive things online. So that goes hand in hand with a lesson that's going to come in a moment. But a part of this unit too, we want them to understand the terminology, which tag and tagging, uploading, posting, what's viral. This is important because often they're tagged in other people's photos. And, I'm surprised because kids know how to do the mechanics of tagging, but sometimes they don't understand that when you're tagged, that means that somebody else may post you on their social profile, and that's going to impact your own digital reputation. So we talk about that a lot in class. And then the final activity in this unit is that they're given a blank billboard, and they have to imagine what they want to be on their billboard in the next 10 years. So they think of all the wonderful things they might post online, do and post online that would make up their digital billboard. So that's that unit. It moves hand in hand with the next unit, which is ethical thinking. This comes about the middle of our 6th grade year, and this is really when the wheels are starting to turn pretty well in their brains. So we pose a lot of ethical scenarios and real situations that happen online, and we give them a bunch of different ways to act them out, to discuss them, to debate them in class. And it's super helpful because then, when they meet these situations in an online environment, they already have the skills or the knowledge to know how to deal with them. As part of this unit, we actually have the kids talk about what kind of conduct they would like to have amongst their peers when they're online. This is a really great discussion, and a lot of times they'll come up with things like, we should turn our phones off at 10, turn them on at 6 o'clock. There should be no drama. We should have common sense about the things we post. We should be humble when we post online. And it's really what lives within that group of kids, because what we want them to do is talk about the norms that govern their communities. We don't want to establish them for them. We want the kids to come up with them. And in this case, I have them make little posters that we actually put up around the classroom so that they can remember the norms that they've come up with. Part of this unit too is really talking about how we communicate online. This is super important. I know as a teacher, a lot of times I'll get email communication from kids, and I'll be kind of shocked at the LOLs and emojis that kind of seep their way into email. And so they have to understand that that's a little different from texting. So we teach them that email is a more formal structure, to use standard grammar and spelling, to explain what's going on, versus texting when it's okay to use upper and lowercase and have an informal tone and use emojis and LOLs and all those things. So we practice different ways to communicate on different online platforms. And that moves us into a really important unit, cyberbullying and digital drama. This actually is comprised, I think now we have 6 lessons in this unit. We expanded it a bit this year. And, we approach cyberbullying, I think, a little differently, as we really try to do it coming from a place of empathy. And so we play a little game. This is one of those playing card match games where you have to match the real person with their online avatar. And the reason for this is we want kids to kind of understand that sometimes people will hide behind an avatar and be a little different for many different reasons when they're behind a screen. And so we give you a little key so you can match person to avatar. And then we have a really great discussion on why these people might have chosen the avatar they chose. Perhaps to hide something physically, or something they're feeling. They want to be different online. And so it's a really good discussion that leads into our next lesson. When the kids create their own online avatars, they actually draw these. But the important part of this lesson is we talk about how you're showing one thing to the world. On the back of the avatars, we have the kids write down some feelings or some traits about themselves that they might be hiding through their avatars. And it was surprising to me even. I've got a great group of kids, and even within these kids, some of the things they claimed that they were hiding was sadness, lonely, not feeling good enough, worried, embarrassed. And in this case, I have two different groups of sixth grade, so I mixed their cards up and I actually put the kids in a circle and they read aloud some of the things that their classmates were hiding behind their avatars. And it was a really deep lesson because I think it really drove home the idea that, it's super easy to hide who you are online. And, in a lot of cases, this is why cyberbullying happens. Sometimes a cyberbully is a person who's feeling a lot of pain and that's how they lash out. So we want them to understand what we call online disinhibition, which means that it's real people hiding real feelings behind a screen. So that moves us into our actual lessons on cyberbullying. We tell them what it is. It's super important for them to be able to identify it. Cyberbullying is online, it's intentional, it's repeated, and it's harmful. That makes it super different from digital drama, which are just the misunderstandings or arguments or hurtful comments that happen online. So they look at different incidences of both so that they can identify it. This is a little video that we have in this unit.
It's fun to connect with friends online, while playing games, texting, using social media, and more. But screens sometimes make it easy for people to say or do things they wouldn't say or do in real life, including things that are mean and cruel. When cruelty is online, intentional, repeated, and harmful, it's called cyberbullying. And to be the target of cyberbullying can be devastating. But the good news is, when bullying happens online, lots of people see it. If you happen to be one of those people, you can help put an end to it by being an upstander, or someone who stands up to cruelty. There are 3 easy ways to be an upstander. Number 1, you can ask the bully to stop. This takes courage. And it's also important to remember that behind every cruel deed is a real person who may be in need of empathy too. Number 2, you could give comfort to the target. A kind word might be just the thing they need to turn their world around. Number 3, you can and should take a screenshot of any cyberbullying you see and show it to a trusted adult. This is how we can put a stop to cyberbullying. Now, wouldn't that be upstanding?
So obviously in this unit, really what we want to do is teach kids how to be an upstander. We do that in a lot of different ways. Here's an example of one of our lessons is we give them a story. And this is a story that actually happened in one of the schools I work with. But we want them to write an end to the story and to have different roles in the story. So for example, in the story that they write, there has to be a target, a bully or bullies, bystanders, and an upstander. And their purpose is to write into their story what an upstander would do. So I let them do this in a couple of different ways. They can actually write me an essay, but I really encourage them also to write a cartoon strip because kids really love doing that. So here's an example. Somebody got really into this, but they drew me a great cartoon about how an upstander would intercede and kind of help the target in this situation. So sometimes I actually have the kids act this out in class too, and they have a lot of fun doing that as well. But the purpose is to show them that there's a lot of ways to intercede on behalf of a cyberbullying incident. Sometimes kids don't have the guts to stand up to a bully because that's really hard, but there's other ways to be an upstander. You can show empathy to the person that's the target. You can go to a trusted adult, and we want kids to know that those are the strategies they can call upon should they see or be involved in a cyberbullying incident. And that's super important because research shows that, the large majority of kids will see cyberbullying online at some time during their life. But then even a higher percentage, I believe it's something like 80% of kids don't know what to do if they see a cyberbullying incident. So we really want to teach them how they can intercede. So the final lesson in this unit tells them what they can do. They can take stock, don't respond right away, record, take a screenshot of the evidence. They can block the person that's being the bully, or they can talk to a trusted adult or somebody in real life. So it's really important to equip kids with those strategies. Our final unit's a lot of fun. It's called Identity and Privacy. And the purpose for this unit is we want kids, to celebrate the fact that they like to share things online, but for them to understand that there's certain things that they should start keeping private. So probably one of my most favorite lessons is called Myself, My Selfie. And This obviously is talking about the selfie, and we introduced this lesson by asking the students, hey, who do you think took the first selfie? And so they talk a lot about, today's celebrities and how they post themselves. And, we tell the kids, well, actually, when you think back to a lot of the famous artists over time, they drew self-portraits, which in a lot of ways are like selfies because you're getting a lot of information about that person from one image. And so for this activity, we actually have a set of, I think, a dozen pictures of different artists that have drawn self-portraits over the years. And we project them in the classroom and have the students tell you what they think that artist is portraying about themselves through that one picture. A picture tells 1,000 words, right? So we talk about Renoir, and the kids say, well, gosh, he looks kind, he looks wise. The red color makes him look warm. He looks very dapper by what he has on. We have a bunch of Frida Kahlos in there, and this is a very good picture to talk about. The kids are wondering why Diego Rivera is in her forehead. She's in wedding garb. A lot of the kids say, gosh, she's got a unibrow and a mustache, and so she was very confident because she didn't draw herself or paint herself in a more revealing way or more in a better way that made her look more attractive. So there's a lot of ways to go with this, but really what you want the kids to think about is, every time you put an image out there on the internet, it lives forever and it tells you a lot of information about yourself. So you should think about what you post, and if you're telling a story that you're comfortable with, or if you're portraying aspects of your personality that you want people to know. So as part of this lesson, of course, we do Andy Warhol. That's a great picture to talk about as well. But we want the kids to draw their own self-portraits. And so these are some of my students and some of the wonderful things they came up with. There's so many good ones, but I just love this because, for example, the large picture on the right, this girl obviously loves cats and she loves to read. So she was able to draw that into her self-portrait. The lesson that follows this is also very important because when kids make their online profiles, a lot of kids will start with Instagram. And on Instagram, you post a picture and you write a short bio about yourself. And even if your Instagram account is private, that information is public to the world. And when you're a child, you don't really have a lot of stuff online yet. So if someone were to Google you, chances are they're going to see your Instagram profile and bio. So it's super important to write bios that are respectful and not going to be embarrassing in a few years. I've seen so many cringe-worthy bios that I think this is an important little lesson to do with the kids. So for this one, we mix up their names in a bowl. Every kid gets a different classmate, and their job is to write a kind bio about that kid. We give them some rules and some guidelines, and then here's some really great ones. Drawing inspires and makes people happy, talented, intelligent, and humble nonetheless. So the kids have to guess who the bios are for, and they have a lot of fun with this activity. So that kind of gives you an idea of the way we do cyber civics. As you saw, it's a lot of games, a lot of social interaction, a lot of drawing, a lot of talking, a lot of game playing. And really our goal here is we want our kids to be like Superman or Superwoman, use their powers for good, don't just be digital citizens, but be digital leaders, to use social media to raise awareness about things they care about and to stand up for others, to build an online network of people and organizations they admire and want to learn from, to use their unique voices to inspire and to motivate, and to only post things they wouldn't mind anyone reading forever. This is a very important aspect of cyber civics. Research shows that young people look to adult role models more than any other source to learn how to conduct themselves online. Of course, when you're 12 or 13, the role models you're going to look to are your parents. So we do not forget parents in cyber civics. They're an important part of this curriculum. For that reason, we have parent letters. At the start of every single unit of all 3 levels of cyber civics, there's a letter within the system. This is actually taking a look at the Skill Jar portal. And it's a letter that the teachers can print and send home with the children or email. The teacher just writes in the date of the lesson that they taught. And there's an activity that the parent and student can do together at home that aligns with every single lesson within the whole year of cyber civics. And that's important because so much of this social media happens at home, away from school, and so it's really important to get parents to be a partner in this whole process. This is kind of a look inside the Skill Jar system. When a teacher has an account, they can actually have all the lessons there in front of them. Whenever they teach a lesson, those little round circles fill in. So the next time they go into the portal, they can see what lesson they left off on. For example, here, let's say you log in and you left off on this lesson, then you would see it in the portal. And again, you can either download it or just read it online and be ready to teach it in the classroom. We've done a lot of surveys with our teachers, and we've found that the average prep time to teach cyber civics is about 10 minutes. I mean, really, it's super easy and short to go in a classroom and deliver these lessons. We also, at the beginning of each unit, have a very short teacher guide, and it basically tells the teacher what to expect with the upcoming lessons and different ways they can prep if they want to be able to deliver the lessons in that unit. Finally, again, we have CyberWise, which we encourage you to visit. It's full of great resources. We have these learning hubs where we cover literally every topic. YouTube, sexting, cyberbullying, privacy, tons of resources on there. It's updated constantly, so it's a great place for parents and teachers to go for more information. We get asked a lot about younger kids on devices, and we do encourage parents to use parental control software when they can't be there to find out what their children are downloading or doing online, or even controlling how much time their kids spend online. We've looked at a lot of parental control software. This is one we really like. It's called MobiSip. If you go to that link there, it takes you to their site and tells you more about how they offer great features to help parents monitor what their kids are doing online. And then if you want to learn about more about cyber civics, this is our website, cybercivics.com. We have an outline of each of the 3 years of the curriculum. You can contact us for a free lesson, or please call us if you want more information. And then again, my book is coming out. It kind of tells the story of how cyber civics started and why the lessons developed, and has some at-home activities that parents and children can do together. And then finally, the reason we do all this is because our goal is to teach students how to use the best internet filter in the world. That's the one they keep between their ears. There's no better way to keep kids safe online than to teach them how to keep themselves safe. Hopefully you've just seen through this little webinar that it can't happen overnight, that this is a process, and we keep having to revisit these lessons. That's why we added level 2, which is all about information literacy, and then level 3, which is about media literacy, critical thinking, and evaluating online resources. So a little more about those in the next webinars, but for now, thanks so much for joining us, and please contact us at CyberWise if you want more information. Thank you. Bye-bye.